What I want to ask beginners is not to be fooled by those who say that certain monsters are tier 1 without raising it themselves. Hello, my name is Storyteller. I remember, so you don't have to. With the global launch of Summoners War Chronicle approaching soon, I reviewed which NAT3 and NAT4 monsters were good. Many users have requested to recommend NAT5 as well, so I made this video. Today's video is a NAT5 that is good to take in selective summons for PvE. I know that making a NAT5 tier list will get a lot of YouTube views, but honestly, it doesn't help beginners at all. Summoners War Chronicle has lots of NAT5 and it is very difficult to make a clear tier list because the evaluation is different depending on the situation and the summoner. For example, Fire Ifrit has Oblivion that seals the passive and popular as the main dealer in PvP, but it is useless in PvE. The Water Beetle Light is a good monster to Orbia, but it does not help Cliff. Wind Occult Girl is highly regarded these days as a counter to Fire Oracle and Orbia, but it has no use other than PvP. So no one can create a tier list that considers all of these things. Therefore, what I want to ask beginners is not to be fooled by those who say that certain monsters are tier 1 without raising it themselves. If that person raise and use that monster with full skill and full awaken, you can believe it. However, I assure you, most of the people who say that tier is blah 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 don't even raise it like that. Of course, it may change to some extent with the balance patch, but as of March 2023, I will introduce NAT5 monsters that you will not regret choosing. Selective summons are summons that once per account, so it is really important. Through this summon, you can take one NAT5 what you want in fire or water or wind attribute. So let's see which monster is good from now on. At the end of the video, in conclusion, I will tell you about the top 3 monsters that are good to get from the selective summon. So please watch until the end. Number 1. Fire. If I had to choose only 3 monsters in Fire attribute, I would recommend Fire Valkyrie, Fire Desert Queen, and Fire Oracle. Fire Valkyrie is a knight who fights from the front and uses first skill to apply defense down to enemies, and second skill to revive, attack up, and self-recovery. The skill composition that increases the attack power of allies while lowering the enemy's defense is awesome, and since there is also a revive, she greatly increases the stability of the party. It was a monster that was useful in PvP too before revive was nerfed, but not now. Anyway, when you are a beginner, there will be many difficult times because you don't have enough deals or your monsters keep dying. Fire Valkyrie is a very useful monster in that case. Next is Fire Desert Queen. Although it has been nerfed once, it is still a very powerful dealer. Through first skill, it attacks enemies in a wide area while applying a powerful debuff Silence. With her second skill, she steals all of the enemy's beneficial effects and applies defense down. When fighting with easy monsters, wide area attack is very useful. And when fighting with powerful monsters, it plays a key role in taking away all the beneficial effects. If you are worried about the various beneficial effects such as attack up, defense up, invincibility, and endurance on the boss, you can remove that at once with the Fire Desert Queen. It is still usefully used in many PvE content including Galagos Ruins, so it is a recommended monster for beginners. The next is the Fire Oracle. The Fire Oracle has first skill that removes a wide range of beneficial effects and apply burns, and second skill that removes all debuffs and heals a wide area. The biggest feature is that she increases mana when removing beneficial effects or debuffs. If you remove 4 debuffs, you can get 4 mana back. This is insane performance. The Fire Oracle, which restores mana while removing beneficial effects from the enemy, and restores mana while removing harmful effects from allies. It is a monster that is highly evaluated even in PvP. Number 2. Water. Selective summons in Korea were able to select monsters before the Pioneer, but I'm not sure about Global. Anyway, the monsters I want to recommend for the water attributes are Water Valkyrie, Water Occult Girl, and Water Chimera. However, if Water Pioneer is included in the list, you must select Water Pioneer from the Water attribute. Water Valkyrie applies attack down to enemies in a wide area with first skill, and through second skill, it removes the debuffs of nearby allies and applies continuous recovery, and removes additional debuff and applies continuous recovery to her and the summoner. She even has a passive that reduces her and summoner's critical damage. As you can see, she is a monster specialized in protecting the summoner. In all content, if the summoner dies, it's a failure. But with Water Valkyrie, you won't die that easily. Next is the Water Occult Girl. With her first skill, she removes allies debuff and recovers HP. And with her second skill, she deals damage proportional to her HP and applies defense down. From this point of view, it seems like a common healer that heals allies while lowering the enemy's defense, but her passive is one of the reasons I recommended her. When a teammate gets CC, she removes it or both herself and the teammate. It is a very powerful effect, but its cooldown is only 2 seconds. There are various CC skills such as Silence, Taunt, Airborne, Oblivion, Fear, and whatever, but with Water Occult Girl, you don't have to be afraid of any CC. Next is the highly regarded tanker, Water Chimera. Through first skill, it deals damage in proportion to defense and applies Frostbite and Knockdown. Through second skill, Provocation is applied to enemies and defense up to self and allies. The level of defense up is quite high, and since he is a defense proportional damage dealer, you can see that both tanking power and damage increase. A Water Chimera with multiple defense buff is like an iron wall, and getting hit by that iron wall is very painful. The next is Water Pioneer. I'm not sure it may be in the selective summon, but if there is a Water Pioneer, you must obtain it. His second skill gives a shield that proportional to his max HP and immunity in wide area. With immunity, you don't have to be afraid of debuffs in most PvE content. It is very useful. And first skill casts continuous recovery on an ally, and if the ally is in a shield state, additional continuous recovery is applied. The debuffs does not work, the shield amount is large, and even continuous recovery in the shield. Water Pioneer is one of the best healer in the game. Number 3. Wind. For the Wind attribute, I recommend Wind Magic Knight, Wind Vampire, and Wind Monkey King. The Wind Magic Knight is an assassin, and her normal hit has a certain chance to inflict a powerful attack that ignores the target's damage reduction effect. She has first skill to silence and incapacitate a single target, and her second skill ignores the target's damage reduction effect and deals more damage the higher the target's HP. As you can see from the description, she can ignore the target's damage reduction effect such as shield, defense up, and invisibility blah blah, which is very useful in certain PvE content, like Naraka Raid. Next is Wind Vampire, one of the best PvE dealers in the game. He applies defense down, attack speed down debuffs, and gets thirst with first skill. And his second skill inflicts damage proportional to the debuff number of the enemy. Through his passive, he can accumulate thirst with a certain probability each time hit with a critical hit. And if the thirst is level 10, he turns into a more powerful dealer by applying attack of level 5 on itself. There are many debuffs in PvE content against the boss like Raid, and in such a situation, Wind Vampire becomes the best dealer in this game. The last one is the Wind Monkey King. He is a highly regarded warrior in this game. His normal hit gives the opponent strong damage with a certain probability and can stun the opponent for 3 seconds. Through skill 1, he can remove the enemy's beneficial effect and applies an attack speed up buff to himself. And his second skill attacks 3 times and each hit applies defense down, and the last hit goes into a wide area. His passive is so unique. When an ally gets hit, he applies a buff to damage reduction himself and counterattack who attacked the allies and apply stun. Durable, good damage, good utility, and even protecting allies. The Wind Monkey King is one of the best NAT5 that can be countered in all situations. So I recommended 3 monsters from the each attribute, but in conclusion, you can only take one NAT5 monster in Selective Summon. Therefore, across all attributes, the monsters I recommended for Selective Summon are Number 1, Wind Vampire, Number 2, Water Pioneer, if possible, Number 3, Fire Desert Queen, and Number 4, Wind Monkey King. Of course, each person may have a different opinion, but I think at least these monsters will be of great help to beginners in PvE. I'm Korean and I'm not good at English, so I'm sorry if there were parts that were difficult to understand. Anyway, I hope this video helps you guys, so take a long look. Goodbye!